What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. Had some at-home studio issues, so just filming here on my laptop. Want to talk about tonight's game a little bit as the Bears take on the Vikings on Monday Night Football. Then talk about a couple of other storylines. Detroit just ravaged by injuries, almost to the point where I almost feel bad for the Lions having this magical season, and it may not even matter. A key injury for the Bears tonight, and some more things as well. So hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. We will continue to plug out content regardless of the state of this team. Obviously, coaching search is a big focal point right now. A couple other coaches, I think, may have entered the discussion yesterday. We'll get into all of that on a future episode as well. But hit that subscribe button. Join us tonight for our Bears Vikings watch party. We'll go live at 5:45 Central Time. All right, let's talk about this game a little bit. Bears Vikings, obviously Chicago riding a 7-game losing streak in here. The Vikings, I think they've won 5 in a row, whatever it is. They're playing really good ball on the other side. So you got two teams heading in opposite directions here for tonight's game. And listen, obviously the Bears are eliminated from playoff contention. That became official yesterday with Washington winning. But that doesn't mean there's not something to play for. I think in the NFL, there's almost always something to play for. I think down the stretch for the Bears, a couple of things. One, you can play spoiler a little bit. You can make it tougher on these NFC North teams who you're all going to play, who you're going to play at least one time. Seattle as well. You could impact their playoff hopes here the day after Christmas. Like there's a lot on the line here for the Bears in that regard, and also you can you can always play for pride, but more than that, there's key young players on this team, starting with the quarterback, Caleb Williams, that you need to get some momentum going into next year. And, even if that's not necessarily stacking up 2 or 3 wins here, play some good football. Feel good about yourself heading into the offseason because let's face it, these last 2 months have sucked. And if they've sucked for you and me, they've probably sucked for the players that much more. I mean, they're the ones who put the blood, sweat, and tears into this. So hopefully they come out and play with some pride. Braxton Jones, not available. He did not travel to Minnesota. He self reported concussion-like symptoms on Saturday. That was reported yesterday. He did not fly up, which look, I don't mean to. I'm not trying to go after anybody or be critical, but feels like the Bears have had some crazy concussion stuff this year. I mean, Jaquan Brisker suffered a concussion in Week 5. We have not seen him since. 10 weeks and counting. I would not expect him to play this year. Ryan Bates, he's been out for what, 3 or 4 weeks with a concussion now. Roshan, this is his third game in a row, I believe. He's missing with a concussion. And look, I get it. Concussions they're very serious. And typically, if you have one, you miss at least the next game. But like the Bears, these guys are out for weeks. It's just incredible that they've had these head injuries, and it seems like there hasn't been proper initial diagnosis. Like I mean, this one stemmed from the 49ers game. That was over a week ago. Like, how is this only being? And look, the staff can only do so much if they don't see the clear signs. It's up to the player to self-report. But it's just like, what is going on, man? I mean, Brisker clearly gets rocked in that collision in Week 5. Is dazed and confused. Finishes that game, and then the next day is in the protocol. Like, why is he finishing that game? Braxton Jones practices all week and then self-reports symptoms. It's just I don't know. Maybe it's just bad luck. Maybe it's a microcosm of the season, but that's a big loss for tonight. It really, really is. And I can be critical of Braxton. I think he's a fine player. You could certainly do worse. You could definitely do better, but there's no question that for tonight and against this opponent, defense in Minnesota, led by defensive coordinator Brian Flores, who shows different blitz packages and looks, I would expect the Vikings to look to exploit the left tackle position. Whether it's Kiran Amegadjie or Larry Borom, you guys can debate in the comments who it should be. I would go with Kiran Amegadjie. He's a rookie. You need to evaluate him. A, Larry Borom's been terrible. B, he's a free agent after this year. C. Amegadjie is a rookie who hasn't gotten to play much. You took him in the third round. You need to start thinking about next year. Like, does this guy have a chance to be a starter on this offensive line, whether it's at tackle or at guard? Hell, if he's serviceable this week, I'd play him the rest of the way and just see what he does. But if I'm Flores, and I'm sure he's going to do this, I am attacking him with different looks throughout the night. And what makes this tough about him self-reporting this late in the week, Braxton Jones, is the Bears. I mean, their install, their game plan, all that stuff, it's already been done. So now, last minute here, they have to find some adjustments. I would imagine to try and help out Amegadjie or Borum, whoever it is, because I don't think you're going to leave that player on an island consistently throughout this game. So we'll see how Thomas Brown and this staff can adjust to that. That's going to be a challenge. There's no question about it. I would expect the Vikings to exploit that matchup early and often tonight. We'll talk a little bit more about this matchup, plus get to a couple of other news and notes. But first, I do want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Prize Picks, daily fantasy made easy at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS to get a $50 bonus when you play for just $5 initially. Prize Picks is awesome because, look, I've told you guys a couple times now, I had my worst season-long fantasy season ever. Don't get me wrong, I still like traditional fantasy, but there's something awesome about Prize Picks where you can set new lineups every day. You can try different players out. You can cross over your sports in your lineup. So if you're more than a football fan, if you want to get a Bulls player in your lineup, get a Blackhawks player in your lineup like Connor Bedard, pair that with the Bears player, you can do that. 2 or more players, pick more, pick less on the stat projections Prize Picks provides. And if you hit, you win some money. It's pretty simple how that works out. You can now, for the holiday season, win up to 200 times your money on certain entries. You can turn $10 into $2,000 like that. Check out Prize Picks today. Set your lineups, prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS to get that $50 bonus when you play for just $5 initially. Link is in the comments and in the description of this video. Okay, more on this game. Can you find a way to run the football? I know clearly DeAndre Swift is not 100%. He's been dealing with a quad thing, a groin thing. He really hasn't been practicing the last 3 or 4 weeks, and he's gutting these games out. So I give him credit for that. But you have to be effective if you're out there, and he just hasn't been. Now, whether that's fully on him or on the offensive line, he's had a pretty disappointing overall season. Now, from about week 4 to week 10 or so, he was probably this team's best offensive player. He had a really good stretch, but now teams have kind of figured out how to slow him in this running game down again, and it's forced the Bears to be pretty one-dimensional, which is asking a lot out of any quarterback, but especially a rookie quarterback in Caleb Williams. Now, against the Vikings a few weeks ago, he handled it well, threw for 340 yards, had one of his better games as a pro. So we'll see how Brian Flores and company adjust to that after Caleb sliced and diced him a few weeks ago. But it would be nice if you could find some consistency in the running game. Now, it's not going to be easy. I already mentioned Braxton Jones is out. The interior of this offensive line has been very inconsistent. Darnell Wright's been pretty solid. Maybe you run behind him and Matt Pryor some tonight, but the Vikings stuff the run pretty well. So it feels like another game where Caleb is going to have to be pretty good. And if he's not, you're going to have no shot. So it's a lot to ask him. My score prediction, I got Vikings 31-20. I just don't think the Bears have enough horses. Javon Dexter is out in this game. It's just, how are they going to stop Aaron Jones? The pass rush has been non-existent the last couple of months. I just, I know the Bears have played these NFC North games tough, but as the season goes on, you just kind of feel that the gap between these teams is pretty wide at this point in time. Now, I do want to get to a couple of other NFC North nuggets here. The Detroit Lions. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a barrage of injuries that Detroit has had. Adam Schefter had this note. This is just the defensive guys, and we'll get to an offensive guy in a second. Notable Lions defensive injuries this season. Aiden Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil, who's now out for the year. Hutchinson likely is as well. Marcus Davenport out for the year. John Kaminsky. Alex Anzalone could return playoffs, probably not. Malcolm Rodriguez, Derek Barnes, Jalen Reeves-Maben. Cornerback Carlton Davis just broke his jaw. He's out indefinitely. indefinitely. Ennis Rakestraw Jr., Emmanuel Mosley, Afetu Melifonwu in that secondary. That is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 defensive players, most of which are starters and otherwise key contributors. I think I was looking at it the other day. I think the only week one starter that is still healthy and playing is Brian Branch. And they're a 12-2 football team. Now, it kind of feels like they're just screwed. Like, obviously, they're still going to make the playoffs. They could even still win the division. But even if they do, are, are they going to be able to win 2, 3, 4 if they're a wild card team, playoff games in a row against high level competition with virtually no defensive players left? That seems like a tall task. Now their offense is going to be able to score with a lot of teams. Even yesterday, playing from behind against Buffalo and Josh Allen, the MVP, they still put up 42 points, but they're going to have to win these crazy shootouts, which I think doing that 3-4 weeks in a row in the NFL against high level competition in the playoffs, it just feels like a tall task. So they could be in trouble. And then plus, one of the guys who gives them balance offensively, the heart and soul of that offense to an extent, former Bear David Montgomery, now he is out indefinitely with an MCL injury and could even miss the rest of the season. It's that is a tough one, man. It really, really is. So I don't know if Detroit can overcome this. I would pick Minnesota to win this division at this point, assuming they beat the Bears tonight. They play each other in Week 18, so both teams still control their destiny, but that is tough. Packers got a big win over the Seahawks last night, so NFC North very close to getting 3 out of 4 playoff teams in or teams into the playoffs, and then there's the Bears, our squad, and you're just looking at this and you're just like, how did the Bears close the gap on these teams? Like I get it in individual games, the Bears have played the NFC North teams close, but they all have 10 or more wins. The Bears have 4. So like even if they had won a couple of those games, and even if they win 1 or 2 down the stretch against the North, like there's still games of gap between these two teams over the course of a 17 game season, and it just you got to get the coach right. Ben Johnson is still my top guy, but we're gonna continue to talk about other guys. Vrabel's gonna be in the mix, obviously. I think Joe Brady, who I like a lot, but he does have Josh Allen, so I've had him below Ben Johnson. I thought he was fantastic in that game against Detroit yesterday. He's done really well with Josh since taking over for Ken Dorsey last year. Liam Cohen in Tampa, they just put up 40 points on the Chargers defense, which was ranked number 1 in the NFL. I think he's got to be someone you consider. But yeah, I think there are decent options out there. But man, this division is tough, and it's going to be tough. Like, even if this isn't Detroit's year because of all the injuries, like, these guys are going to come back. Like, most of these guys are under contract. So we know Green Bay's not going anywhere with their youth. Minnesota's interesting moving forward. Do they keep Darnold? Do they pivot to JJ? We'll see. But at minimum, they're a well-run operation with Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores at the helm. So, if you're the Bears, I'm not trying to be bleak, but it's just reality. Like, this thing is difficult moving forward, which is why it is not optional to get this coach right. If you don't, you're going to continue to be the 4th place team by a pretty wide margin moving forward. All right, drop those score predictions in the comments. Bears, Vikings. I got Vikings 31-20 tonight. Let us know what your score prediction is. My name is Harrison Graham. We'll see you guys tonight for a little Bears Vikings watch party.